had a dream once. I was in the cemetery of an old church surrounded by the graves where great men of the past had been buried. And so all of a sudden the graves started to open and an armed king stood up. And another grave opened and another armed king stood up. And this happened all around me. And these were very formidable figures, right? They were the great heroes of the past. And after a number of them appeared on the scene, they looked around and saw each other, and being warrior types, they immediately started to fight. The question is, what stops the great kings of the past from fighting? And I had a revelation. They all bowed down to the figure of Christ. And then I woke up and I thought, what in the world did that possibly mean? And then I understood it. If you have 20 kings, let's say, and you took the thing that was most king-like about each of them, and then you combined it into a single figure, then you get a single figure of transcendent heroism, of transcendent good. That figure of transcendent good is symbolized by the image of Christ. And the purpose of that image is so that even the tyrannical king has someone to bend his knee to.
Incoming message from the glitch mob to Cody McKibben. What we fear doing most is usually what we most need to do. It is time to attack your game. That's the plot in this adventure of life. This adventure of life. This adventure of life.
All right, what is up, guys? Good morning. It is bright and early Tuesday morning here in Asia. This is Cody McKibben coming to you live from the Hero Foundry headquarters in Bohol, Philippines, as of right now. So let's see. Today, I have a whole bunch I'd like to share with you guys, but a couple quick notes. I got the Hero Library finally kind of somewhat organized and in the shelves here. Had a bunch of boxes that I had shipped from the US, and so finally got all those together. Let's see if I can. Other updates, so if you guys are not following Hero Foundry on social media, please check us out. Look us up on Instagram. Pardon me. Look us up on Instagram, Hero Foundry, and TikTok. If you use TikTok, that's been a real vibrant, growing community the last month or two. And of course, here on YouTube. If you're not watching the YouTube stream, well, where are you watching? Leave your comments in the chat thread. But yeah, I have been pushing hard the last 6 weeks, I believe, sharing a lot of the wisdom that I kind of based this Foundry idea in around Joseph Campbell and particularly his concept, I think it's on the shelf behind me, but his concept of the hero's journey, monomyth, and as well as several other thinkers. Jordan Peterson, is one of the modern day guys that I think is having a conversation around similar lines. But today I want to delve into something. So I know it looked like I have Brandon and maybe Reverend Todd and possibly Samuel. If you guys are seeing this at all, if you catch the replay, give us a shout. If you guys see this live and you want to come on and join me as we work through this Epiphany Bridge. And I'll be sharing my story, my example, and reviewing this framework with you guys. Just raise your hand, leave a comment, and I will do my best. I'm managing lots of things here on the backside. but I'd love to invite, if any of you want to come join me for this conversation and actually dig into like your example. It looks like I'm having technical difficulties on the backside, actually streaming this into the workplace. So I don't know what's going on. Give me 1 second. I'm going to be right back. So, okay. We'll see if I can sort out this streaming. But forgive me, guys. It's been I'm rusty, and I've had this real bad foot injury for like 3 weeks, which has kept me. It's just been hard to even stand up or walk. So I haven't been getting out very much. I have struggled to do the basic, just to get my shower every day, because I gotta clean my wound, my toe. Basically, I had my toe ripped in half. Like, long story short, but it peeled my big toenail off and a good chunk underneath it. And so I've just had to be cleaning this and redressing my wound, and it makes it hard to do a lot of things, most things. And I've been exhausted. Yesterday, it really caught up with me just how sore and how much pain I'm in. And, a lot of other muscles are compensating as I'm doing my best to get my exercise, to keep walking and put weight and pressure on that foot and just keep moving. Don't let it stop me, but it's painful, and it's putting quite a burden on other parts of me. And so anyway, yesterday I was so exhausted, I found it hard to work. And so I'm glad to be up early this morning. I was up about 5:30 with my beautiful daughter, but I'm not super prepared today, and I'm out of practice. So have patience with me. But we are going to be reviewing Russell Brunson's Expert Secrets. I was so excited. I've gone through this to some degree, to some depth, a few times over the last several years. I think it was 2020 when we first started, and we were reviewing the One Funnel Away challenge, building sales funnels and testing out the ClickFunnels software. And so I guess that was, there's many different, formats for some of Russell's training. So I think I was first introduced, or I first saw his discussion about the hero's journey, and he talked about Joseph Campbell and how he studied that framework, that the monomyth, for his storytelling back in 2020. I get, in a presentation format on stage. I forget where he was, but you get far in it. So I'm doing this today to share my example and review this framework for my fellow certified warrior trainer brothers. So yeah, Samuel, Todd, Steve, and I think more of you guys. I know some of you will tune in from our Warrior Acceleration tribe. So yeah, drop a comment, say what's up. And again, if you want to join me, raise your hand, let me know, and I will see if I can onboard you into the call. You guys can join me, and we can dissect this together. But trying to just think where to best begin. So I wanted to review, I've been working my way gradually through this stuff, getting clearer and clearer on who do I actually want to serve. For years, I had a movement. We started a education business called Digital Nomad Academy. And so in many ways, I have been teaching since 2010. It started before that, but late 2010, we launched this Digital Nomad Academy. So the audience, it was geared specifically to people who, a lot of younger kids, college kids, and young professionals that knew that they kind of wanted to get out of the standard working life, quit their jobs, start a side hustles, start their own small business, become some kind of a service provider, freelancer, and build their own path, right, in one way or another. And I ended up working with thousands of these digital nomads and location independent business owners across 4 continents. Actually, I mean, I got a one-way ticket in 2000. I think it was mid or late 2008 when I left California. I was working at a college of business in Sacramento, California, and then I went, I started with Thailand because I had a friend or two there, and spent quite a lot of time there. But moved around the world, 4 continents, and always interacting with and building with these different teams, in these different cultures, different settings. And so I was exposed to a ton of different people from all different backgrounds. And anyways, and then I became a father, years later. Life had its meanderings and setbacks, etc. And so today, this is what I want to share with you. I'm going to share not the full story and in depth, but I will give you the overview of my hero's journey. Okay, what it took, like how did we get where we are today? I've been off the radar for several years, actually, and I've been focused largely on my family, on my children. I got a 10-year-old son, Christopher, 3-year-old, almost 4-year-old daughter. And I've also really just been hyper focused on helping establish my wife and helping her grow. And so together we built this Hero Visa Services, a small U.S. tourist visa consulting agency, primarily based here in the Philippines. We've got a team of, I think it's 10 or 12 assistants to help us with the visa business specifically. And I think we've been awarded 4 times now recognition here nationally and internationally. So that's just really taken off. But I want to give you this full story about what happened because I built this movement since 2006 into we launched Digital Nomad Academy, or I will call it DNA. That was late. That was the holidays 2010. And then that went for 7 years before I kind of shut it down, 2017. And then I went real quiet for like 5 years. I was just off the radar, and I was dealing with my own trauma and PTSD and psychology, and going on a real deep dive, learning about psychology and developing my spirituality, and figuring out how to piece myself back together and come back. So I'm back now, baby. But so let me get back to this journey. So expert secrets, right? I mean, I got into this conversation thinking it was about building online sales processes. Like, what's the customer journey, the sequence of stages and steps we need to take our clients through. And then I realized, Russell himself, if you're paying attention, he again highlights Joseph Campbell and this idea of the hero's journey monomyth, which in scholarly terms, Campbell presents it as almost a 17-step framework. And it's not that every story has to have every one of the 17 stages, but these were like the sequence of steps that he saw reflected throughout all hero stories from across cultures, across the world, throughout the eons. So like the Odyssey, all the way up to the movie The Matrix, but like from ancient myths and epic poems and stories that have been verbally handed down for hundreds of generations, to our modern cinema and storytelling today, comic books, etc. And so there is a section where, after introducing Joseph Campbell, I got 2 copies. So Joseph Campbell, author of The Hero with 1,000 Faces. And if you guys are unfamiliar with this work, I started a sequence here. If you check my YouTube, you can find The Hero with 1,000 Faces book club. And we've broken it down quite a bit. Sorry, I got something suddenly in my eye. But so Russell, here I think I'm here to learn business, right? And like the tactics, the tech implementation of how to build sales pages and online workflows and so on and so forth. But he brings up Campbell, and I'm like, oh, that's my jam. I love this mythology stuff and old academic nerdy stuff. That's what I'm into. So that lit me up in 2020 when I first went through Russell's. I think it was a 30-day one funnel away challenge. And so check my YouTube. We're talking about Star Wars and what's his name, who steals the fire. Gosh, why am I drawing a blank suddenly? Oh, it'll come to me later. Anyways, so there's a chat. So he introduces Campbell, and then he really delves in. Okay. So real quick, the 17 stages from Campbell. I hope this mic is picking me up. So stage number 1 is the call to adventure. The hero receives a calling to the unknown. Stage 2, refusal of the call. Obligations or fear prevent the hero from starting the journey. Stage 3, supernatural aid. A magical helper appears or becomes known. Stage 4, crossing the first threshold. The hero leaves their known world and ventures into the unknown. So this is used in psychology as well, like Carl Jung, Jungian psychology. It's kind of like any growth process. If you're learning something, building a business, if you're exploring, traveling the world. I mean, anytime you're going into the unknown, this you can look up on my YouTube channel, look for the Hero's Journey Framework, and I've got a complete 30-minute free masterclass, which you guys should check out, where I break down and I draw it all up on the whiteboard. But you leave the comfort of home, which is at the top of the circle, and you go down, and so it's a circle divided in two, and as you go down into it's either the unknown, or it also represents the unconscious realm, sometimes the subconscious. But yeah, so psychologically speaking, it's the unconscious, and out in the world, it's the unknown. You're traversing into new territory that you're unfamiliar with. So crossing the first threshold. Part 5, belly of the whale, the final stage of separation from your known world. Part 6, the road of trials. The hero must pass a series of tests to begin transformation. Part 7, meeting with the goddess or love. The hero experiences some form of unconditional love within that unknown realm. Part 8 is temptation. The hero faces a temptation that will distract him or her from their ultimate quest. Part 9, atonement with the hero's father. The hero must confront the person who holds ultimate power in their life. Part 10, peace and fulfillment before the hero's return. The hero moves to a state of divine knowledge, usually through some form of death. Part 11, the ultimate boon. So this is the reward that they find down there battling in the depths, whether it's in the darkness or in this other underworld. Part 12, refusal of the return. Having found bliss and enlightenment in the other world, the hero may be reluctant to return. Part 13, magic flight. Sometimes the hero has to escape with the boon. So that makes me think of at least of like Aladdin, when the magic carpet helps him escape, this underground layer with the lava and everything's falling apart and there's all these dangers and booby traps, right? Like something appears, a doorway opens, where there were only walls before. And so it allows the hero to kind of miraculously escape the danger. And then it leads to rescue from without. Part 14, sometimes the hero needs a rescuer. Part 15 is the return. The hero retains some wisdom that he or her, that she gained on their quest, and integrates it into human society. So the hero brings it out of the darkness or from the unknown foreign world back to his community, back to the village compound, and shares their wisdom with the world. Stage 16 is master of two worlds. The hero achieves a certain balance between the material and spiritual, or the known and unknown, inner and outer worlds. And lastly is stage 17, the freedom to live. So free from fear of death, the hero lives in the moment without concern for the future or regrets of the past. So that's a real quick, high-level review from Russell's perspective. And you can check my YouTube main page for a deeper dive, and we'll be going deeper on that in coming weeks and months. But let's see. Oh, Samuel, what's up, brother? Good to see you. Give me an example of a modern-day dad struggling in overwhelm and silence, not communicating with his wife and kids, and his suffering in silence. He finds a guide, and what happens next? Well, so yeah, that's what we're looking at, dude. So how does this apply, right, in our day-to-day lives? By the way, brother, if you want to, let me know if you want to join me. I'll try to link you up, and you can come on here live with me if you'd like. But I wanted to break down and share what I got out of going through this trainer activation and looking at what Russell calls the Epiphany Bridge origin story, and how that relates to our own hero's journey, and how you can use this hero's journey framework in your sales and your storytelling and your marketing. You can make it the basis for an entire information product or knowledge business. But yes, so great example, Samuel. Like this reflects in our daily lives too. Are you sitting in isolation somewhere, somehow, like thinking, oh, I have this big dream, this call to adventure, but you're resisting it? Or maybe you're starting down that path, the first few stages of your own hero's journey, and it's exciting, that you're headed towards some bigger, better future, but along the way you soon find out, like, you're really all that you have in store for you is a whole lot of challenges and setbacks and swift kicks to the behind that you're going to have to learn to adjust and deal with one way or another. So let me see if I can pull up something and share with you guys here. Give me 1 second. Okay, so we're in this is in the Warrior Certified Trainer dashboard, looking at this trainer activation protocol. So there's a whole sequence of steps. So Samuel, Todd, whoever's watching, give me a shout. Any of the rest of you guys tuning in, let me know. Tell me your name. Tell us where you're watching from. But for my brothers that are part of this Wake Up Warrior Certified Trainer program alongside me, we're going through this stage-by-stage activation process, right? So there's the certification boot camp, there's testing, onboarding, sequence, etc. And we've got these 5 protocols to review and learn, live, leverage, and then eventually be able to lead others on these frameworks that help us manage the chaos of our lives as busy dads, most of whom run businesses. And you've got this chaos of abundance. But this stage 5 is delving into Russell's book, Expert Secrets. And there's many parts. So for anyone who's really building a business, a movement where you're kind of the expert or the personality, you got to put your face out there, share, teach, tell your story. The part that we're concerned about today is this Epiphany Bridge and the hero's 2 journeys. So in the book, after introducing Campbell and the general idea of this hero's journey, it's a cycle. Campbell always said it's like the hero, you leave, you go out on a separation from your home, from your comfort zone, your known world, your area of competence, into the unknown. So it's a separation, initiation, and return. And Campbell always says, like, it's a cycle. You go out and you return, you go out and you return. And every time the idea, hopefully, is you come back reintegrated as a new, bigger, badder version of yourself. But the journey never really ends. It's this continual cycle of growth and expansion, which is the same thing we've been talking about in Warrior forever. So I always said, so Samuel, for example, if you're tuning in, when I went through the 30-day Wake Up Warrior Challenge, I was like, dude, this, like, Garrett found a way to actually send a man on a real life hero's journey, just following simple instructions. You go out in the world, out into the unknown, you have these transformational experiences. You also go into the depths within and explore and learn new things about you. And so the chapter prior to the Epiphany Bridge script in Russell's book, he calls it the hero's two journeys. And I'm not like Russell wasn't the one to discover this, but he lays it out really clearly by delineating how there's two different conversations going on pretty much in any story, any movie, any book, and anything that resonates with your soul. There's two journeys. There's the external journey, the visible journey that like Frodo taking the ring to Mordor, what you watch, the places they go, the physical experiences, the actual concrete enemies and things that they have to contend with. But then there's the inner journey. So there's the journey of transformation on the inside, like how it changes you and who you become. So how do we apply this in our regular lives, Cody? I hear you asking, right? I don't want to go on and on about the academic side, but what the hell does this mean to my life? Well, if you want to build a business, you are going to have to go on a journey of like finding the right people to help you, the right people to serve, hunting down clients, right? So, I mean, there's this external manifestation of your journey as an entrepreneur, becoming a leader, building your movement, getting your content out there, whether online or in person. You might find yourself giving presentations on stage, I hope, for your sake in the near future. But then there's also your inner journey. So like, who do you become through the process? Like, we don't just read these books just for fun. It's like you got to let it transform you from the inside out. So you learn, and then you put it into practice, right? Like you've got to think, how can I apply these things in my day-to-day life, or in building my business, or building and leading my family, for example? And so you kind of need to distill what you learn from others, from mentors, from books and courses, etc. And then you've got to learn how to implement and always be producing physical, real results, hopefully in your business or career. But through the course of doing those things and practicing and repeating the repetition, right, over time, like me practicing these silly calls, like you look back, I mean, even this, I'm a bit of a perfectionist, right? So I'm not always super proud of my presentation, especially on a week like this when I'm struggling with my injury and been bedridden, etc. But like the point is just to get the reps. So, I mean, I've been out of the game off and on recently, but like I have done hundreds of reps just getting in front of the camera. Oftentimes just, sharing what I have to share without even operating off a script. And I'm doing my best each time to improve, really learning from frameworks. And so that's why we're looking at the Epiphany Bridge script or framework. And that's why I've chosen to build much of my business around this hero's journey framework that I learned from Campbell, just like Russell did. So I got it back in 2003. Was my first introduction, real one-on-one introduction with Campbell, because I studied. What do you call it? It's part of the humanities, the College of Humanities. But I got my bachelor's degree in humanities and religious studies was my focus, with a minor in Middle East history. So Campbell and a lot of the mythology and back then philosophy was my jam. That's what really fascinated me. So if you guys have your stacks, Samuel, I'd love to see, feel free to drop a link or share in our tribe group if you have been working through this trainer activation protocol. I just dropped, there's a few that I put in recently to our group, but yesterday I just dropped this one, cultivating belief in me, and my movement was the assignment. Excuse me, I got coffee burps. Damn. So yeah, if you guys have stacks, I would love to see what you guys are taking from these trainings. But today I just wanted to share with you kind of, what this helped me realize and piece together, and how I can structure my storytelling when I share my background, like how I learned it or earned it. Because, dude, when you stack it up, it's impressive, actually. Like I sometimes I forget how much I have invested, almost $500,000 since 2006. I had to travel 4 countries, and I've been to the depths of, I called it the abyss before I encountered Garrett. Mine was not just a pit. It was, what do they say? When you stare into the abyss too long, the abyss stares into you. So, I mean, I went dark. I was diagnosed with PTSD and tried to process that through traditional therapy, which was, I got some results, but it was difficult. So finding Warrior, using the stack, I was able to dig myself out and reprogram my stories, my limiting beliefs, which is why I'm so passionate to share it with others. But so here we've got my Discover stack. At the end, I completed at the end of stage 5.2, which is about, cultivating belief in yourself and your movement. So whoever you are watching, chances are, if you're seeing me or the replay, like you're a creator or an entrepreneur of some kind, or you want to be, right? So let's talk about cultivating belief in yourself, your journey, your life experience. What has your experience given to you? What are the gifts that only you have that you are here to share with others? And, maybe there's a movement or a message that you have to share with others, right? So who or what was I stacking? This was Warrior Trainer Activation Stage 5.2, your message, coming out of the book, Expert Secrets. I think it was chapter 7 is the Epiphany Bridge. Chapter 8 is the Hero's 2 Journeys. So get a copy of that if you don't have one. Chapter 9, they give the script, and then etc. There's a lot here. So let me see. So the story that I got after going through all this stuff, digesting it, synthesizing, and kind of pulling out the biggest lessons for me, I said, I've not only learned the hero's journey cycle over these last 20 years, but I've lived it several times over. I've become it. So this frame, like, it's funny because I've been, I think I had, because of the deep kind of mental pit, the mental illness that I wrestled with for a couple of years, like 2017 and 18, and the fallout from that, like, I think it brought me to my knees. It really was a soul crushing experience that lasted a couple of years. And then it's like I had to dig myself out of hell. So I'm still building back my self-confidence. And it's like, it's been a process of remembering, oh yeah, like I've really done some stuff, I've tested businesses across many different domains, across 4 continents, working with all kinds of different people. And looking back at the achievements, what did Garrett call it? It's like, you need to look back and look back over Victory Valley. Because if you don't look back and you're only focused on what you want to achieve in the future, which that's one of my bad habits. My psychology, I'm very future oriented. So I always have a big vision, but I need to look back and review frequently what was achieved. So as part of Warrior now, even just on a weekly basis, we call it the General's Tent, reviewing my performance on a weekly basis and setting aside some thinking time to return and report on what I achieved in the last week. Even just that is so valuable. And it helps remind me that, like, you know, I might not be at the top of Mount Everest where I want to be, but looking back, like, look at all that we have overcome and achieved, setbacks and challenges that you know, we've conquered, etc. So yeah, sorry, I'm getting off track. This framework, this Epiphany Bridge or Hero's Journey framework, it's not only the central teaching tool and resource that I will implement with my people, but it's the key to my storytelling, to the seductive sales process, to my curriculum structure with the Hero Foundry, and it's key to my clients' customer journey success path. So even though you may not have a business called Hero Foundry or, you know, talking about the hero's journey, I believe that if you are a businessman or an entrepreneur of any kind, there are ways around it. But if you want long-term sustainability, with my 16 or 17 years of experience, I believe you need the hero's journey in one way or another. You're going to find it hard to keep a long-lasting, sustainable business and to deliver a compelling message and inspire people if you don't at least learn to implement some of what this hero's journey framework gives us. So yeah, I said I feel vindicated in a sense for investing so damn much of the last 10 years of my life actually following my bliss, as Joseph Campbell would say, and pursuing the path of learning and experimenting and fucking up royally and, you know, getting myself hurt in silly ways and making huge life mistakes. But, you know, the bigger mistakes you make, the more lessons you learn. You know, that's the funny part. So even when it seemed foolish, irrelevant, or crazy for me to keep forging forward with such an unusual path and into the darkest part of the forest, as Campbell would often say, all alone, I now see how this hero's journey framework is central. It's central in the rise of Jordan Peterson. He's always talking about the hero's myth or the hero's path. Yeah, Garrett, any of you guys who are in Warrior, you guys know, like, this, he uses the language of the hero's journey. He's rebranded it all as Warrior. But it is the hero's journey in real life. And yeah, even in Russell's work, you know, he's talking about Joseph Campbell. So it kept coming around. It's funny that I picked up on this back in 2003. And it keeps coming around. It is the axis mundi, as I wrote. That's the center of the world in a certain sense. So I believe that learning, knowing, and understanding the hero's journey, the monomyth, and I would suggest the most, if you want to go to the source, it's Joseph Campbell. But knowing and understanding about this cycle, this cyclical growth framework, is the key to win the game of life. And that was my singular lesson from studying all, I think it was 4 or 5 chapters and all the contextual information from our coach Garrett around that. But my takeaway lesson was the hero's journey is the blueprint to win the game of life. And I believe that. So welcome to Hero Foundry, where we are going to dive deep around the hero's journey framework and, like, really unpacking that for years and years to come, you know. But, like, so today I will share my example. And again, Samuel, Todd, Brandon, Steve, any of you guys, if you happen to be tuning in, hit me up in our group chat. I'd be happy to bring you on here. Otherwise, I'll just share my example and would love to just give it a rep, you know, sharing about it. But real quick, so here were the 7 major hero's journeys that I identified that I've been on throughout the course of my adult life already. like I say this is a cycle. I mean, they're also they can be happening in different realms of your life, side by side, or like overlapping, not necessarily at the same time, but kind of overlapping. We have daily hero's journeys. Sometimes doing the stack, I've always said, is a mini hero's journey. So in an hour or two, especially if you do the mega stack, it's 42 questions. It is a deep dive in your mind, really looking at your stories, your beliefs, your limiting beliefs, and like reprogramming your psychology. So that's a little miniature internal hero's journey. So you can go on like micro hero's journeys and macro hero's journeys, in the world. But 7 of the major journeys that I've already been on, and I kind of identified them with what realm. So in the realm of wealth, the first big one was, when I decided to leave traditional employment. And it was because I think there's 4 typical motivations that Russell identifies. I forget off the top of my head what they all were, but like it's either to escape a situation or to capture, so not capture, but like obtain something that you need, a treasure, reward, to retrieve. That's the word he used. To win. So anyways, in the area of wealth, I wanted to find a way to create my own small business, because I had been working. I mean, I had 17 part-time jobs as a teenager and in my early 20s. But I worked, I think, for almost 4 years at this college of business at my university, which was a great experience. But then I saw one day one of my coworkers was awarded for her, it was like her 30th anniversary at the college, which is, again, an amazing achievement. And for some people, they're cut out for that, and that's great for them. But I knew for me that I had to go find adventure. I had to go explore the world. I needed the unknown, and I was not going to be able to kind of live in an office setting for years and years. So my first real journey was to escape the 9-to-5. That's kind of how I looked at it back then. It was inspired by the 4-hour work week, which I have my opinions on, but it's about travel, adventure, and finding lifestyle freedom. So that led to, 13, 14 years traveling the world. And that's a whole journey that I'll share another time. The second major one was in the area of balance or relationships, and it was to retrieve, quote unquote, but really to, like, my son. I had a son born on the opposite side of the world. So again, I'm not going to get too deep into this one right here today. I will share another time. But I had been with my now wife for, we were dating for a very short period of time. Truth be told, I think it was about 2, maybe 3 months. I met her in Cebu, Philippines, when I was working here for a British friend who has a call center. And so anyway, so I met Jam, we dated, and then I went to South America. I had a contract in Santiago, Chile, and I was kind of a founding member of a startup accelerator down there called Exosphere. So a whole other story, right? But I was in South America and found out, surprise, surprise, oh, you have a son coming. So there was a major journey that I had to go on. And then I was scraping by because this became, a big burden on my mind and heart, knowing that I had this child, my first child, coming on the other side of the world. And my life was not set up to be able to include that at the time. So I went through a hard struggle just to, kind of piecemeal earn enough to get from one country to the, I went from South America, stopped in New York, ended up visiting family in the UK, to Berlin, to Thailand, where I had a lot of colleagues and I knew I could do some work and make some money, finally to come back to the Philippines. So that was a huge hero's journey, to reunite with my firstborn child and save, I kind of wrote, but this is just my truth, this is where I was, my perspective, but to save him from kind of being raised in a poverty situation. Number 3 is along the lines of health. It wasn't my health, although I learned a ton that applied to my health, and I have applied to my health. But it was a learning journey involving relationships because it was my mother. So this was a journey to stop my mother's extreme health decline. She had been given a triple negative cancer diagnosis in 2015. And that was right when I'd finally reunited with my son, and I was trying to establish, okay, what are we going to do to co-parent? What was the situation with his mother? All these things were unknown at that time. But I'd kind of just gotten back and, reunited with the both of them and made things right. And we had a little pocket of peace. And then, of course, the next hero's journey calls. Oh, my mom, who I hadn't talked to really by and large for 10 years, but she's like, hey, I'm dying. So we had this estranged relationship, and it was a journey to rebuild that. And she, thank God, was around for another 5 years. But that's another story. But learning a lot about cancer, health, alternative wellness and health practices, and psychology. Number 4 was a wealth journey to escape the scarcity of homelessness. And so after that journey with my mom, it's like now I'd been kind of forced almost to go back and forth. And this has been my story for several years now. But it's like, okay, finally it slowly dawned on me. I've established this cross-continental life. Like I'll always be, one way or another, I'll always have this connection with Philippines because that's where the mother of my children are from. But I was called to America. We really started to struggle, and then some crazy things happened. Most of you guys, Warrior, you guys know my story with the PTSD and the horrific trauma. But in 2017, I basically lost it all. I kind of let my empire, I didn't burn it exactly. I wasn't intentionally doing that, but I let it all, like all these spinning plates fell, and I just couldn't keep it all up. And so ended up losing my fancy condo in Chiang Mai, Thailand. And going through this process of trying to rebuild myself from the PTSD. So this was like, 2018, late 2018 is when I really committed, at least, to get out of that abyss, to rebuild a business, to bring my wife back out here to Asia so she could kind of reunite with her family and her culture. And that was when we started I was building a few things, but she had started this side business that became our visa agency, and that really started to blossom. And so I started to help her just build that up. So we went from, scraping by, living with my dad for a year and a half out of the goodness of his heart. Thanks, Dad. But we were on, we were on food stamps program, WIC, in California. So we were getting like $500 a month for groceries and diapers for my son. He was like 3 or 4 at the time. But we went from there to, now we've got about a 6-figure a year agency business. And like a lot of it is delegated and outsourced. And I don't have to do very much at all other than certain leadership tasks and kind of staying on top of the metrics. My wife manages the team, and she does a really good job at that. But it's created a ton of abundance, not just for us, but prosperity that we're able to share with like 10 families. So it's an amazing blessing. Number 5, was, I guess, just the mental health, what do you call it? Journey that I went on. So, it was a deep dive into spirituality, and I used, truth be told, a lot of natural medicine, a lot of God's green medicine, cannabis, and dabbled in other things, but I'm not huge into psychedelics or anything like that. But I've done some psychedelic exploration and a lot of spiritual practice and meditation and etc. and learning how to, what I call, walk and talk with God. And that's again why Warrior opened up a channel, a path for me where we have the stack tool, and it's just a straightforward journaling sequence that you go through, and it if you're in the right frame of mind and heart space, and you're plugged in, you're connected to some degree with your spirituality, with your whatever divine transcendent you are plugged into, it gives me at least this ability to stay connected to God, my conception of God, and to download, if you will, some intuitive guidance in life. And it has served me very well. So there's this being and mental spiritual journey that I've been on. Number 6, again, is a wealth journey. This is one that's new for me, but I'm finally back together. And so I'm on a mission to win as a warrior certified trainer. So a couple of you guys tuning in are on this similar journey with me. I am all about, I want to build a business and build the kingdom for myself, my family, some level of security, as much as can be done. But really, more about expanding that abundance I was just sharing about, the prosperity that flows into the lives of others, and just being able to kind of actually establish ourselves as pillars in our local community, and helping create jobs, helping guide everyone we can around us, because God knows people need it, etc. And lastly, the number 7 that I wrote down is, again, a being or relationship journey. And this is the one that I believe I'm called to in a very grand scheme. And it's a transcendent mission, but it's I ultimately, with what I'm doing with the Hero Foundry, with everything I do, you guys can call bullshit. You can laugh if you want. You don't have to believe this, but to me, it's ultimately, I want to stop after what I have been through. The ultimate purpose for all of my work is I want to help stop men from cutting themselves off from God, from the divine, from the transcendent, and from drifting in their own lives without purpose into this pit, into depression, purposelessness, being directionless, to stop guys from operating on that autopilot, from sedating and just sitting back and allowing either idiots or evil to prevail and to control everything. 2020, we saw, I can only tell you what I saw. What I saw was evil taking off the mask, and most men and women, but it's our job. Most men just sat back and were like, meh, whatever, and allowed it to happen. And here where I was at the time, we had checkpoints all over the place, and you had to carry your papers with you and have little permission slips from Big Daddy government to do anything, just to breathe fresh air, to step outside of your home, to go to the grocery store, to go to the hospital. I was threatened at gunpoint. I was threatened with prison in front of my then 6-year-old, and he was sobbing in tears. And I didn't do anything fucking wrong. This is called oppression. When we've seen this happen before. I'll point to almost, let's say 90 years prior in a certain part of Europe. But if this shit happens again, someone has to stand up and stand against it. And I think, I know it's a spiritual battle. I'm not about civil war and guns and all of that stuff, but men need to grow some backbone. They need to be connected to their creator and a purpose. And we need to support each other so that we can co-create a place where our children can flourish and experience all of life, not a tyrannical, what's the word? Anyway, I'm opposed to tyranny. So So I want to get men connected to themselves, to the transcendent, and to purpose. That's what I'm about. And that's why I decided to embrace this brand called Hero Foundry. So I've gone on and on. I'm kind of just reviewing this stack. I think the one that I really wanted to review, let me just double check if there's any comments from you guys. So the Epiphany Bridge. In the book, Russell gives us this script or this framework. And so real quick, I will, let me see if I can find the right stack here. Yeah, here we go. So, okay, the Epiphany Bridge is a storytelling framework from Russell Brunson. He introduces this concept. He calls it it's like, how did you have the epiphany that altered the course of your life? If you're a leader, business owner, entrepreneur, like whatever it is you're trying to do for others, or the product you have, the solution that you have to others' problems, what was the epiphany that opened up that possibility for you, right? So it's a way to tell the story of how you encountered that or had that epiphany, to take your customers, your audience, from where they are now to experience the same epiphany you had that led you to the solution. And so this story framework is crucial because it helps people to see the value of what you're offering them and why they need it. And so especially as you take them through your whole journey with all its ups and downs, the dark part, the pain, the suffering, the cost, like what was the investment on your part to retrieve this, whatever it is that you have, but the gifts, the wisdom, knowledge, and solutions, from your own, the pit of your experience. So it's composed of about what, 5 parts. There's your backstory, your origin story. This is where you set the stage by explaining where you started and the challenges you faced before kind of becoming this current version of you, who you're now the mentor in someone else's story. But so yeah, where did you start? What was your backstory, your origin? And then you take them on your journey, the process you went through to discover the solution. And then you introduce the epiphany. What was the moment when you realized the solution, that the realization, revelation maybe, that changed everything for you? Or how can you work to frame it more in that sense, like something revelatory, an epiphany that you can share with your people? And then lastly is the transformation that gave you, and then maybe showcasing case studies, examples of other people that you have led through such a transformation, and how it will help transform your audience, your potential customer, your prospect, right? So the key concept here with this whole Epiphany Bridge story is, like, why are we talking about this? It's because it's essential for you helping your audience understand the value of your solution or your offer. It connects them emotionally to your journey, your life experience, and it makes them believe that it opens up the potential that, for them to understand, like, they can achieve a similar transformation if they follow the same steps that you'll guide them on. So your audience, they need to experience the same epiphany that you had in order for them to believe the way you do in your solution, right? So here on the screen, this is the Expert Secrets Epiphany Bridge framework that I've shared in our groups. And then we'll get into my example. So, but the script is right here on the screen. You got the backstory. What was the desire, especially, that you had? And I'll show you my example in a minute before I just rant. But, often there is there's external, internal, and vehicle element to a lot of these stages. So I'll explain kind of what that means as we delve deeper here. But yeah, so then, as I said, you explain the journey. In other words, what conflict did you encounter? And there's that call to adventure, call to find something. There's also a villain oftentimes in all of our stories. So not necessarily a person or a personified, but there's some kind of a opposition, or something standing in the way, a dragon, as Jordan Peterson would say, or Joseph Campbell as well. And then your new opportunity. So this is where you introduce your solution. And for those of you who are on the trainer path, I hope you should resonate with this by this point. You kind of need to set this up. You don't want it to be an improvement offer, right? Just a subtle improvement on the way everybody already does things, but you want it to be kind of a whole new alternative. So any way you can, again, position it that way, as you're opening up a new possibility for people, and frame it in a sense of like a new way to think about things, a new journey for them to take. So often you will be the guide on their journey, but you share, like, who was your guide, who was your mentor, who maybe did you learn some new concept from that gave you the epiphany, right? And so what is your new opportunity, your new vehicle that you're going to offer them, the new solution to their problem? The framework, strategy, your results, sharing other results, like I said, the key studies, and then the achievement and transformation. So again, that's the hero's 2 journeys. Like what was the physical achievement? Like maybe, I haven't made it this far yet, but some of my past students, Christian Martin, he's won the 2 Comma Club award, I think a few times. So I don't know how many, but 2 commas meaning he's created businesses that have earned at least $1 million in a year within ClickFunnels system. So, like there's the material achievement of something, maybe success or financial targets or recognition. The external, the what that you achieved and that your customer can potentially achieve. But then there's the inner transformation as well here. So how did you get there? How did you have to grow and change and expand yourself, spiritually speaking, in order to become the guy who could achieve that thing, right? So this is the hero's 2 journeys. It's the inner and the outer. There's what people see on the outside, and then there's the internal. Oh, something weird's happening. The internal journey of expansion of who you are, who you were, who you have become, and who you will become, who you're on a journey to become in the future. Let's see if I can pull this from my library. Here we go. So, okay, so I'm going to take that first major hero's journey, that desire. So when I was 22 years old, I think, my desire was to escape, like escape the matrix. I think I wrote that in here just as a note for myself. Like as a early 20-something, my favorite movies were Fight Club, The Matrix, The Beach. The Beach really made me want to go visit Thailand. Amongst other things. But so my desire, my somewhat immature desire at that early stage of my life, was the backstory here, right? My desire was I wanted to escape this seemingly, the mind-numbingly boring like office life that I almost felt like I was going to be trapped in for 30 years looking at my coworkers. Now, I was working for the dean of the business school. So again, like I said earlier, like it had many amazing benefits and positives. But when my coworker Vicky had her 30th year anniversary party, I just thought, man, this is not the life for me. Like this is I miss my direct report, my supervisor, Thomas. Like, I learned so much from him. He was one of the mentors who shaped me and gave me so much indispensable wisdom, especially with like event planning and just developing relationships, etc. But anyways, I knew that world wasn't for me. So I said, like, this is for my copywriting purposes. You know, in the beginning, all I really wanted was to make $2,000 to $3,000 a month remotely, so I could go live on a beach in Thailand. And I mean, that is true. Especially when I read 4-Hour Workweek, I was like, oh yeah, I could escape to some tropical paradise and go live for a fraction of the cost. Now, you'll see later in the story, I did achieve that. But, you know, on the hero's journey, it's a going out, a separation from what you know, an initiation into the unknown, and then a return. And when you return and reintegrate the new information, the new discoveries, you know, then you become bigger. You become a bigger, better hero. You expand and you realize, like, oh, you know, maybe it's not about just some selfish temporary desire, right? It's like there's more to do than just sitting on the beach. But anyways, so the external desire, was to escape the 9 to 5, to figure out what this lifestyle design thing and digital nomadism was all about, to travel. I was seeking adventure, freedom from systems, from tyranny, again, like I said. But the internal that I found was really a journey of like seeking meaning. Like I could, at this stage, I could live in an office setting for the rest of my life, as long as the work was focused on, you know, what I'm actually truly passionate about, that aligns with my purpose, and like you've got the right people around you, right? You know, that you're switched on and you're working on something important and meaningful. So anyways, the whole thing, really looking back, it was a journey of discovering that meaning for myself, you know, like developing self-reliance skills and the ability to fulfill my true soul purpose. The old vehicle, for those of you using this Epiphany Bridge, you know, as a storytelling framework to share your own offers and solutions. I mean, I said before, I had 17 jobs as a teenager and a young 20-something. So I'd experimented with a lot, and I had gotten into blogging for a couple of years and doing affiliate marketing, and then I became a WordPress developer. That was where I really started my solopreneur journey. You know, I became a freelancer. So that was the beginning. Of getting myself out of a job. Was just, I was learning PHP, XHTML, CSS, and doing front-end web development, largely for authors, small business owners, actually small to medium companies. I had a couple of Fortune 500 companies that I did their web design for. So anyways, but the journey, or the conflict, the call was, let's see, the call. So freelance WP was my first real service business. And then I productized the service so that it wasn't always flying by the seat of my pants. Like, yeah, we'll do anything. It was like I had certain pre-packaged services that I would provide for these authors and entrepreneurs and businesses. And then I ended up with a few colleagues in 2010, I think. Yeah, we started something called Untemplator. So again, in the blogging and affiliate business kind of model, but we built a small team of writers and basically built this publishing business with an ad revenue sort of business model. And then I worked with some folks at a site called Location Independent. That didn't work out very well. A guy named just sort of notes to myself, but yeah, someone brought me this concept for this thing called Digital Nomad Academy, or DNA. It was not actually originally my idea, but I was the guy he came to, knowing that I had all the connections and the experience and the kind of the blueprints. So I think the call for me, the call to adventure was just like, yeah, discovering other people, making friends, developing trust and bonds with certain colleagues who were on a similar path, and then combining forces and like, yeah, testing these little business experiments. Some of them blew up, in a good way, right? Grew and prospered. Some of them sort of fizzled, but that was the call to adventure. It's like, people opening my eyes, at least. Like Milt turned out to kind of betray me, unfortunately, down the road, but he introduced me and opened my eyes to some new possibilities. So nowadays I can look back and I appreciate that. The villain for me, the villain in my storytelling is, I've decided that it's the 4-hour work week. And I had some sort of mixed experiences with Tim Ferriss himself. It's funny because they say never meet your heroes. So I know what that means now. And that probably applies to me too, because I'm sure I know there's people out there who have idolized me in the past, and then they meet the actual me, and it's like, yeah, I'm just a man. Or for example, like I met Warren Buffett when I was fairly young, and that was an amazing experience. And there's nothing, he didn't do anything wrong. I love Warren Buffett, but you meet the person and it's like, they're just a guy, There's no demigods walking the face of the earth. It's just a bunch of people just trying to figure it out as best they can. So anyways, but the ideas of the 4-hour work week, the concept of that, like I used to really want to believe this passive income idea, but I call it a pipe dream now. It's like looking for the easy path, right? Like what's the laziest, least involved way that I can make the most money? And so that was a big element to the culture that I was a part of in years past. But looking back, I mean, that's the idea that I'm going to throw stones at is, yes, I mean, I have personally, and I've seen many people, you can set up like certain little online businesses where you don't need to even show your face necessarily. And maybe you put in, a lot of upfront work and you can kind of make passive income for a period of time. I mean, I did that. I experienced that with the DNA, amongst other things. But nothing will last if you're not actively involved in nourishing your creation and your people and your community. That's what I've learned. So this idea of a 4-hour work week, I mean, only minimal things can be achieved with such minimal commitment. Now there's a list, again, this is mostly for my purposes in the stack, but thinking back, there's so many, unfortunately. And I know the truth is, like, I was just as responsible, if not more, but so many business partnerships and joint ventures that sadly went poorly or fell apart or had fallings out, etc. But I did financially, I kind of had a real challenge with, we had 3 co-founders when we decided to. So I took the model that I learned working for the dean of the business school, having been part of the restructuring of the graduate school of business and also launching an executive MBA program. Like I took a lot of like what I learned structurally and like pedagogy, how we teach and create curriculum, etc. I took a lot of that and applied it. And, essentially we created our own online academy. So I felt like it was a very serious endeavor. And then I went around and pitched it to like a lot of my colleagues and my past mentors. And so I brought together a tremendous network of people. At least every month we would bring in a new mentor and kind of like really delve deep on their area of expertise or breaking down like how they built their business. So our students got exposed to dozens and dozens, maybe hundreds, of different business models and different concepts. Yeah, a lot of it along the passive income idea, but just like, how do people build online businesses? How are people running remote businesses or, leading a location independent lifestyle while they also manage and operate a business? But yeah, sadly, a few of at that time, I felt like I always it seemed like I was always working tirelessly, creating tons of content, and a lot of times, unfortunately, because things just bad expectations, both sides, bad communication on my part, etc. But a lot of times, it felt like my tireless efforts would end up benefiting someone else, and we might we fall out, and nothing really stuck for me. So I really felt that I got recognition and reward for my efforts. I said, even Tim Ferriss, I won this 4-hour work week competition, just as a case study of sharing what I learned from his book. And, the promise was something like we were supposed to get a motivational video from Arnold Schwarzenegger. That never happened. He also promised that he'd send me, I think he had 4 different books at the time. I'd already bought 2 or 3 of them, but signed copies would have been cool. That all fizzled. I don't know what happened with all of that, but it's just kind of funny. I had all these fallings out, and looking back, I don't blame those people, because I've made worse mistakes. I've dropped the ball, and it's life. But the experience I had at that time, it's like it all, in retrospect, ultimately, it all was pushing me to just keep moving forward on my own, and not to rely on anyone else, and not to, what's the word? I mean, that's what it channeled me towards. Like, I had to become self-sufficient. So it was a blessing ultimately, right? Yeah, I think I had alluded to the fact, later, I kind of, with the recognition I had accumulated, I was asked to come down to Santiago, Chile, in South America, and be a mentor, really, more than anything else, for a couple founders that had startup concepts. I think I had 5 guys and 1 girl. And so I would meet with them at least weekly and just mentor them and give them guidance. And, I was involved in kind of, the foundational steps of setting up this. It was a startup accelerator program, kind of there was Startup Chile, which I believe is still going. It's a government program. So it's not to be confused with Startup Chile, although we were somewhat involved with them and some of the VCs and advisors there. So really interesting experience. It's what I want to bring back to the Foundry, is cultivate those sorts of relationships, and find amongst our warrior brothers, or, I mean, I've got some guys that are kind of ready to move on this if I could get, the right level of engagement. But yeah, I want to rebuild a proper business accelerator program where we can continue. Like, I've done this throughout parts of my journey, but like connecting people, promising concepts, with investors. So we'll see. But yeah, sadly, my time in South America was kind of cut short, and I just suffered because I was struggling with the depression, the inner turmoil, knowing that I had my first child on the far side of the world, out here in Asia. So I just had a messy life. The real villain was me. The real villain is always you, if you study The Hero's Journey from Campbell. So again, although we're looking at Russell Brunson, I would again recommend The Hero with 1,000 Faces. The real enemy, the real dragon, is always ourselves, we find eventually. The what if question for me was like, at that time, so I had all this turmoil. I had different demands pulling me in different directions, because I really wanted to remain a part of this new upstart, this exosphere program that brought together all these different business advisors and VCs and young founders with their cool startup ideas. Such a great environment to be part of. So I'm really hoping to bring that back here in the Philippines, maybe Thailand. I mean, I got a lot of friends in Chiang Mai that are doing these sorts of things. But in that environment, because my life was a mess and I didn't have I looking back, I lacked so much structure. The what if question that was eating away at me from the inside was like, what if I never find a way to create the long-term sustainable income to support a family? I was afraid to become a dad. I was not ready. Not that anyone ever is, but like I was certainly not planning for that. It caught me by surprise. It felt kind of like it fell in my lap. And so the fear did at that point in my journey, fear got cranked up to 11. It was like, oh shit, like what, God, I mean, I had to go into overdrive to figure out a new plan. Go back to the drawing board. Because I knew I had to leave Santiago, and I wasn't going to be like, I had intended to spend I'd spent a few years in Asia. I was saying goodbye. And then I was ready to spend a few years in South America. And I had this great opportunity, but then I fumbled the ball big time because of the inner turmoil. And I knew I had to get back. So yeah, for a couple of years off and on, I was considering, well, do I just give up the whole game, like, and just turn in my entrepreneur hat and burn it all down and just get a job? And so I felt at times throughout that journey very hopeless, and yeah, I dragged my sorry ass, as I wrote here, from Santiago to Medellin, Colombia for a little while, to Costa Rica, New York, London, Berlin, Chiang Mai, and finally back to Cebu. The reason for those stops really was because like I was organizing events, putting on workshops, seeking out clients to keep me going, to keep funding the Cody McKibben Inc., to get back across the world and figure out this, like, what is the new plan? Because I had put all my eggs in this basket in Chile, and sadly that didn't pan out. So anyways, I kind of hopped from place to place on my way back around the world and finally came back out to Philippines. But finally, so the new opportunity in my journey, getting to where we are today, I think it was in 2016. I don't recall. I'm going to have to work on this to flesh out like the epiphany part, but I know it was 2016. Something resonated in my soul. It called me back to this book, like this literal book. This is from, where is it? The library. Oh, the sticker's not on there, but it used to have the library sticker. I bought this at my university, I think in 2002, 2001. So I had read and been introduced to these concepts, 15 years prior, but something in 2016 was speaking into my soul. And I knew that I didn't want to just talk about digital nomads anymore. I don't know why, but like my interest in that just sort of melted away. I'd been doing it for 6 years solid, I guess, at that point with DNA. And something about it just never felt quite right. Because again, it wasn't my idea to begin with. Someone approached me with this Digital Nomad Academy idea. I thought, oh, well, DNA, that's a great, what do you call it? What's the word for that? Anyway, but I mean, it was obviously integrated with my lifestyle and my achievements and the businesses I had built, but branding that way and speaking to that audience in that way, like, and these ideas of passive income and the easy life and escapism, like the more I matured, the more I realized like it didn't sit right with me, and I wanted to do something a lot deeper and more profound and meaningful. And so I turned back to my roots in college with the hero's journey in 2016. And I really felt called to, like, I want to take this maybe a couple levels deeper, like still work with the same people, but introducing these ideas of the hero's journey, the psychology, the spiritual path, personal and spiritual development. That's what I wanted to focus more on. Less on just the tactics of setting up online businesses, but more on the inner journey. So that was my call to adventure since 2016. And somewhere in there, I think it was actually maybe early 2017, but I know at some point, 16 or 17, my friend Ian, introduced me to Garrett J. White. And what he actually did was showed me the original Warrior, the video book. It was like a physical thing, but you open it up and there was a little video screen. Maybe some of you guys, I hope, have seen it. I'll have to pull up the old pictures, but it had all the video training like in kind of a tablet device. It was really cool. And then I think I sought out for a little while. I remember at least listening to old episodes of Garrett's original Warrior on Fire podcast. And so the epiphany at that point was, oh, holy shit. Like, you know, because I'd been explaining to he's kind of my friend and mentor, even way back then. But Ian, I was just telling him like about what I just explained. Like, this doesn't resonate. It doesn't fit so well for me anymore. And I really want to go deeper. And I told him about this idea for the Hero Foundry all the way back then. Like, I really want to take men on their hero's journey. And he said, oh, it sounds a lot like this guy, Garrett J. White. You might be interested in him. And so, you know, I started to read some of his emails and listen to some of his podcasts, I think. And with time, not very much time, but yeah, I realized, wow, yeah, this guy is really doing, you know, something very close to what I wanted to be doing. You know, it really resonated. So the epiphany was, it's like, okay, there's another guy out there. I can see clearly at least one specific example, who was Garrett J. White, the author of several of the books on my shelf today, but you know, who was running the business I had essentially dreamed of. And I had no idea how to get there at that point in 2017, but he was coaching men not only through a wealth journey, like I had some experience with, but also through a more spiritual hero's journey through the pit towards prosperity across all areas of life. So yeah, it was this awakening, this revelation for me, like, okay, so my wild ideas, someone's achieving it. Someone was executing it. So yeah, entrepreneurs do not have to sacrifice their health, you know, their mental health, their sleep, and their relationships in order to build successful startups. So somewhere in there is my epiphany that I need to, again, narrow down and clarify and make it in such a way that it resonates with my prospects, my audience. But right now, I'm just sharing with you, this is my journey that I went on to get here today with the Hero Foundry, right? But it was this revelation. Okay, it can be done. I see a clear example of someone who is doing something very similar to what I'd love to do. And so it's funny, because long story short, I mean, I've somewhat followed, and then I really pulled back. I didn't want to step on toes. I didn't want to like copy Garrett too much. So I actually really resisted joining Warrior for a couple of years, because I thought it might be too much overlap. But anyhow, let's get back to this. So the revelation, when I did finally enroll and, you know, pay to play and join some of the programs, I think the first one I went through was the King's Kit, the second group in June 2018. But the biggest things that Garrett has taught me, and that, you know, or that I've just learned and kind of synthesized since adopting this Warrior's way, this operating system. The biggest thing that he always said early on, especially, and he just nailed it in over and over, is simple success swinging singles. Because I always had this approach of swinging for the fences, you know, and going for miracles. And we did achieve miracles. So I built the DNA in a month, and I just I built it like literally the back end, you know, the technology, all through WordPress and figuring out all these plugins and like all the infrastructure of an entire membership site, and a LMS, learning management system, like tying all this stuff together and creating all the content and the videos and the marketing asset, like all this stuff in a month, right? Even thinking about it now, it's exhausting. But that's how I used to live. We would do these short sprints. I mean, these huge launches, and then in the hopes that we could then sit back and enjoy the passive income maybe for a few years. And I mean, it kind of worked, but like these huge commitments of time and energy, and like, but you need all the things to come together just right to be able to pull that off. Anyways, it was a whole different approach when I encountered the Warrior's Way and this idea of simple success swinging singles. For anyone who doesn't get the baseball reference, it's like you're not trying to get a home run, but you're just trying to make sure you hit the ball, and you keep getting singles. Every teammate and player keeps getting singles. It's like, well, you fill the bases, and eventually every hit you get, someone comes home to the home plate. So it's as good as getting home runs, and it's more consistent, more sustainable. So in other words, in the day-to-day application, this just means laying down simple daily bricks, which is what we learn with like the core 4. It's like, what's a small minimum viable investment you can make across the different important areas of your life, not just business, but also keeping up your relationships with those close to you, keeping up your health, your spiritual life, etc. And so it was the revelation overall of encountering, learning more about, and then eventually, adopting and adapting the Warrior operating system for myself in my business, with our teams, and somewhat, I'm still fleshing this out, but to some degree with my family. It's an idea of just simple daily investments, and then not the 4-hour work week, but a 4-hour work day. So this is actually this is something I developed, and I'm sure I think Samuel mentioned something similar to this himself too, come to think of it. But I kind of like came to the point over the last couple of years where it's like, I essentially spend 4 hours of my day on the core 4, which is a lot. For a lot of guys, they're like, they don't have time for that. But I set up my life, since 12, 13 years ago, around lifestyle design, around traveling, and being able to spend a lot more time at home with my kids and invest in them and pour into my relationships, focus on my wife and her team, and etc. There's a lot of things to attend to, but I spend off and on, roughly, I'll invest often 4 hours of my day in the core 4, in my fitness routines, and eating greens, salads, doing my spiritual study, reading the Bible oftentimes, or my daily devotional, studying a number of different things. But I'm a little more of an academic nerd over here, so it's like, it's not only stuff like Russell Brunson, but delving into some of the psychology, mythology stuff. So I put a lot of time into building my inner world and building skills and mindsets, and investing in my kids especially. So it does often work out. It's like a 4-hour investment across my 4 pillars of life, and then 4 hours a day. Often it's more. I do put more in than that, because I like to stay up late after everybody goes to bed. And my hardest habit to break is my tendency to stay up too late. Like, once I get in the flow, like I will work 6-8 hours until 1, 2, 3 a.m. But I'm really working these days to remove that and to prioritize my sleep. So these days, this is what I'm going to package up as part of my solution for my prospects. Is my lifestyle business blueprint, if you will, is to eventually dial in a life where you spend almost half your time investing in yourself, your family, your loved ones, and the people around you, and then the other half your time into your work, and actually building your kingdom. And so that'll be my lifestyle business blueprint. So that's the revelation. So the new opportunity that I had, and that I'll be turning around to kind of give to others. So what I looking back now, I can say with certainty what I was lacking all those years ago, 2010, 12. Back when I felt at the time like kind of betrayed or just screwed over. And like I'd been putting a lot of effort into creating content in some of these partnerships and joint ventures where the other side often profited off of it a lot more than I did. And I was always like, why doesn't this work out for me? What I was lacking for all those years that those other partners had is frameworks. It was the structure. Like I was kind of flying blind for much of my youth. And honestly, I was probably pretty lucky to earn as much as I did and to be given so many great opportunities. But it was kind of, a lot of it was beginner's luck, and a lot of it was God, I think, protecting me when I didn't even know it. But looking back, what I needed was a solid foundation to build upon, to build a sustainable long-term game. Especially, now I know, to keep it going into one's 30s, 40s, and 50s and beyond. It's like you really do. You will not have the energy, focus, and maybe the optimism either of your 20s forever, so you got to build systems and structure. And especially if you are a father or a husband, if you have that trifecta of insanity, you run a business, you have a marriage to contend with, and you're responsible for shepherding children. These are like the three hardest things you can do. I said it's kind of like building a house. You need a holistic toolbox filled with proven frameworks that all integrate with each other. You need to build all parts of your structure in tandem to support the whole in alignment towards your desired end result, so that your house doesn't collapse with the first typhoon that blows in, as I've had experience with. So looking back, if I had wanted to weather the storms and build something that will last, I was going to need to learn and implement systems and processes to manage the chaos, especially if you're a nomadic entrepreneur. But if, for anyone with an entrepreneurial life, so in my experience, I had built this life, and it was felt like my brain was spread across 4 continents, but certainly I had commitments and family now across 2 continents on opposite sides of the world. And so, that put a lot of strain on many of my relationships. We had young 2 children now in the balance, my bad habits running amok up until recently. I mean, I'm still wrestling with certain bad habits, you guys. I'm not perfect. I don't walk on water, but I knew, since the last several years, I started, what was it? Work the System by Sam. Gosh, what's his last name? It'll come to me. What? Sam Watt? What is it? Anyways, a couple different books, and then especially getting into the world of this warrior's way. It became all about systems. So today, looking back, I know now that's the key. Frameworks, systems, structure. You got it. Whatever business you're in, it doesn't matter. But if you are an entrepreneur, if you are a leader, and frankly, if you're not either of those, but you're just a father responsible for a family, I would say even if it's just that, you do need to find and identify systems and build structures. And actually, I did have an awareness of that. I was searching desperately, especially when I was entering that phase. I knew, okay, I'm going to become a father. And I was considering, am I going to get married? And I was like, is there anywhere where there's who has the frameworks, the blueprints? I think some churches, I don't know for sure, but I still have a strong suspicion. I do think this is a significant element that pastors get into. I think religions have focused on that. And that was another part probably of my journey that turned me back towards an interest in religion. But I didn't have that. So I went seeking, and I found it. I did find some of that, a lot of it in this warrior's way system and elsewhere. But a lot of it comes from our myths. It comes from these hero's journey stories that we pass down. So I just knew, and I know today that that was really what held me back. was lacking systems. And so, especially in business, the reason I've often felt sort of screwed over, or I would contribute to different projects and like other parties, colleagues, mentor, people would profit off of like the stuff we co-created, and I felt kind of left behind oftentimes. It was really because I lacked the systems and I didn't know what I was doing in some of these areas. So you guys in Warrior will recognize these, but I'm still in the process. I've built out the first few, but as you go in this game, you have to nail all of these. And it was the epiphany, the ongoing revelation that like there is a blueprint, at least, or a sequence of stages that we all must go through as business owners to learn these new skill sets and mindsets, and to flesh out these areas for ourselves, for our businesses, for our teams that we manage. So some of the things, one needs structures and frameworks and systems for the personal life, for family, for, I would say, psychology. The stack helps, but especially in business production, you need to figure out what are your systems in advertising, marketing, fulfillment, sales, and the processes with your people, your technology, your optics, metrics, your accounting, taxes, legal things, and asset protection. Ultimately, that's like, once you get into looking at the game of asset protection strategies, then you're doing pretty well. And I'm lucky enough to have dabbled there, and I have a lot of clients I've helped to some degree that get to that stage as well. So yeah, and so I recently had this realization in the last couple months. The truth is, I've spent my adult life, really seeking out and collecting frameworks, mental models, blueprints, roadmaps, instructions, templates, and testing them out, studying, experimenting, failing, testing, pivoting, but synthesizing and seeking as many blueprints and frameworks and templates, in a sense, to synthesize into a whole. Because like I said, it's like, oh, I'm going to become a dad. Who has the blueprints? And before that, it was, people were coming to me for the blueprints to build a location independent business, right? For like 10 years. Some, they still do, but I wanted to put it all together. And so I call that like the blueprints to build the kingdom. And I think, Garrett has, it's funny because I'd uncovered some of the same things that I later found within Warrior, like the core four. I had my own version of that I'd sort of distilled from looking at many different sources. But I always called it mindset, health, wealth, and relationships. But so I want to now turn around and offer this set of blueprints to build your kingdom, right? So like whoever my prospect is, here's the frameworks, the sequences, the blueprints, here's what you need to implement in your family life. Here's what you need to build into your teams, and, structures and sequences to follow to flesh out these areas of your business, to learn, implement, and eventually master your marketing, your sales, your advertising, your fulfillment, and all those areas. So I think that's where, like, so my frame, this is where, okay, so what is my framework? And Russell talks about creating your own, proprietary framework. I'm still, there's another thing to share another time, but I call mine the hero's journey framework. But so the strategy behind all of this, like, I got so excited to dive back into Campbell's work in the last few years. And then, experimenting how to help entrepreneurs discover where they were in their learning, where they are. And so, since 2019, even before I entered warrior, I was sharing the hero's journey concepts with a small inner circle of coaching clients of mine. And then as I learned the warrior's way, that operating system, I started to kind of incorporate, things like Core 4, the stack. And so, methodically, line upon line, like a bricklayer, I have built unshakable foundations for myself and been turning around, like I rebuilt my psychology out of the abyss after this horrific trauma experience in 2016. And so I was compelled to take all these different sources. I learned certain frameworks from Joseph Campbell with the hero's journey. I took so much from Dr. Jordan Peterson over the years, since 2015, I think. I mean, I did a deep dive into all of his psychology classes, his maps of meaning, and then his biblical series. So there was a lot of wisdom there that helped me cultivate my faith and, harnessing, channeling that to rebuild self-confidence, courage, certainty, in myself, and that spiritual connection, and tying it all together with the warrior's way, the protocols, the live by a code, telling the truth is the same thing Peterson, that I'd learned from Peterson. The code, the core, the stack, the door, the game, all these things, they fit together. I knew it from early on. And so I spent like the last 3 or 4 years like synthesizing. How do I put it all together in my own way, adapting it to my language with the hero's journey? And so, so I've got a lot of results that I've been fortunate to cultivate, and some results that I've helped my clients and my students obtain. Let's see. So again, this is like notes that I kind of put together, thinking like, how do I present this in my perfect webinar framework, as a presentation? Some of the examples, I leveraged the operating system, the 5 pillars of the warrior way, to go from when I first started in 2017, 18, that's when I was still lost in the pit, trying to find my way, clawing out of this abyss of PTSD. But I used those pillars, to go from, from the days in 2013 when I knew I had a son on the opposite side of the world, like separation from my own son, gradually working my way back to Asia. Now, today, we're happily married, and we've got 2 beautiful kids. We're able to put them in a pretty solid, like biblically based private school here that I'm really happy with, and they're doing phenomenal there. We've got a big, beautiful house. I mean, we're still renting. I wish we could buy this house, but I think the owners are going to be coming back next year. But we virtually have a mansion by local standards. Like, it comes with some issues too. Like, we have a really sizable property, a little bit of a walled garden, if you will. It's gorgeous. We're very blessed. And the lifestyle that we are fortunate to be able to live is, it's beyond my dreams a couple years back, let alone 10 years ago. But I mean, I have taken my family at certain periods that we've lived in Thailand. We've lived in the US, on both coasts, California, North Carolina, and we've lived a few different places here in the Philippines. We've built this award-winning visa business that's about at the 6-figure mark right now, in US dollars. I think we've got 12 staff in all that are just all really grateful to have them around us. We've been, like I think I said before, had several awards. And, I'm in a place where I can take my wife on a really nice wedding anniversary trip like we did back in November. We take trips, quarterly now. international, go have a really beautiful getaway. We went to Hawaii in May. My wife can take off, and she had like VIP seats for the Taylor Swift concert in Singapore not long ago with one of her best friends. So, and then, okay, other people's results with the system, the frameworks, the blueprints that I've kind of been synthesizing and compiling. I worked alongside many friends and clients, coaching clients. And let's see, what else do I watch? So there's a few examples here of like what I've seen other warrior friends achieve with the system, and then there's the examples of people I've helped myself. I think I don't need to review all of this because you guys know plenty of these case studies. But I've been alongside guys like Chad Brown. I watched him develop like $100 million construction steel business. There's a few I mentioned who have been on our calls over the last 2 years, like Stephen Ocean, who's really kind of risen. He's building his men's coaching business, becoming legends now. Joshua Jones, it's been a real inspiration to see him essentially launch kind of a ministry, Go Christ, which I'm very supportive of. I saw my friend Ian, who introduced me to Warrior back in 2017, I believe. He went from from not too long ago, when I followed him to North Carolina. Not that this was a bad situation to be in, but it's funny seeing him go from farmer Ian to now he suddenly he's managing partner for $100 million VC fund because of how the inner work he's done and the things he learned and who has become. It's been exciting watching some of you guys, Brandon building his M&A business, Samuel, if you're still on here, launching your book Triggerless. I've got examples I can share from some of the men I've worked with, like dating back to 2018, 19. Eric Norwood finally launched his Pipeline Digital Marketing Solutions. My friend Rico, who really developed a trading company called Nomad Coins. Longtime partner in crime, Dwight Turner, who really built a legacy in Thailand with his Courageous Kitchen mission. So I'm still working on building my personal case studies, but I've been working with a handful of guys for the last 5 years or so, slowly sharing what I'm learning, slowly coaching them through similar processes, and just sharing the blueprints and the frameworks. Really, ultimately, it's about those structures that I've found that have helped unlock possibility for me, and then seeing, okay, how do we need to adapt or tweak it, and how can it be applied in the lives of others? And so with your epiphany bridge, your storytelling, you want to take people, you want to show them the process you went through, the pain, the pit, the suffering. How did you learn what, and how did you earn your achievements, right? But what hardships did you have to go through? What was the cost, the expense to learn and build your experience to become who you are today? And then ultimately you bring it around to like, what about have you helped others implement these things? So the final section, I believe, is the achievement and transformation. So in my case, what was the achievement of external things? As I rebuilt myself, my psychology, health, spiritual connection, and financial resources, I was finally able to lead. And it took a couple of years, in 2017 and 18, truth be told, I was largely I had a hard time even getting out of bed for long periods, for months at a time. I was so damn depressed and despairing. I was very close to giving up on life. But so I came from there to, I rebuilt myself and finally able to lead my family and our team from this increasing power in myself. And I was able to help my wife scale this thriving consultancy business now that's lifted her from poverty into prosperity. I think for her, it's like beyond, where she came from, the slums, dude. Like, it's kind of unthinkable, the journey she's had. So yeah, I think I have gone above and beyond she did the hard day-to-day work, but I really was able to help her build these systems. So I think she will be financially independent for the long term, with this sustainable business now. It's made both of us, I think, the first in each of our family lines who are even able to entertain a conversation, an idea of maybe we can pursue generational wealth for our children and our legacy. Like my parents, I mean, they did well, but they came from the traditional work world. Most people in my family worked for government. And so I was really the first one to forge a new path into entrepreneurship. And it's been messy and painful, and there's been tons of failure and even embarrassment. And I think half my family at least probably looks at me like a complete fool even still. But we have these assets that we can build. We have businesses and real structures that we have cultivated. Like, we're the stewards of certain movements, teams, people, audiences, missions, and our kids, right? But so now it's a game of how do we get creative about guiding all these people and these missions and making it profitable for everybody. And that's something my own father it's hard for people who come from an employment perspective to even conceptualize this kind of it's a different game. At least that's what we're aiming for. I have successfully forged my own path, navigated this crucible of entrepreneurship and dabbling in many different business models, revenue models over the years. It's been over 16 years. I finally realized, I think it's going on 17 since I had a W-2 job. So somehow or another, I have survived almost 17 years hunting the buffalo. I mean, not that I haven't had a lot of help from others and collaborators and mentors along the way, but I mean, I ultimately did it, just always finding a way through by the grace of God. But so, and to go back, I hope I didn't just screw that up. To go back to the beginning of the story, what did I say? All I really wanted at the start was to be able to make $2 or $3 grand a month so I could live on a beach in Thailand. That was the original sort of somewhat immature desire. But I got a beach house. I think I've had more than a few on different beaches, different islands. But I had that experience that I had been dreaming of. I did. I said I lived on beaches in Koh Phangan, in Krabi. I frequently went to Phuket. A lot of people will be familiar with Phuket. Samui, Koh Lanta, all these different, especially throughout Thailand. And now I live on this little destination island here in the Philippines. And the kingdom here is really blossoming. So I did achieve that initial external desire. I've traveled almost 40 different countries, lived and worked with teams across 4 continents. I'm able to pour so much time and energy and attention and love into my kids every single, so much it's kind of stupid sometimes, but I love it. and I'm able to consciously participate in their day-to-day lives, their education, and help guiding them on their learning journey. With unique experiences with all the travel we get to do, the kind of intercultural, cross-cultural exposure they get here, people from around the world, even right here in Panglao. So it's different than other people's idea of success. It's not I'm not a millionaire. I mean, not in dollars, but not yet. But I am very wealthy in experience, in lifestyle, and I have designed my life consciously so that really, first and foremost, I get to spend my time however I want. I mean, if I want to take a week off, actually, I took 2 weeks off when we went to Thailand. The most recent time, it was just July for kids' summer vacation. I debated a little while, but I was like, you know what? I'm not taking anything with me. I mean, other than the phone and my iPad, which I barely opened. But for 2 weeks, I didn't work. I mean, I was still reading and studying and listening to some things in the evenings, but when the kids went to bed. But I can do that at this stage in my life because I want to. Will it always be that way? Probably not. I hope we get more busy in the coming year or two, because I look forward to that for a season. But I've often prioritized time freedom and just the ability. I put myself in a position, location-wise, work-wise, with the relationships and the team I've built, where I can kind of create a space for myself to invest in studying, learning, developing the new skills, like going through certification programs and stuff. And I don't have to, thank God, I hope we get to enjoy this abundance going forward, but it's, the businesses have been providing consistently, sustainably now since 2019, 2020. So I'm not like desperate all the time, racing against the clock, and I don't make profits necessarily the end all be all. Sometimes I need to put more focus on that, but sorry, I'm going on a little bit of a rant, but other things. Yeah, I've had the great honor to serve and equip dozens of clients and students over the years with several of these transformational frameworks we've talked about, these strategies that have empowered them, some of them, to create 10x or even 100 times the financial success I've had. Like I think I mentioned, Christian, Martin. Some have become angel investors, so yeah. Transformation. How have I changed internally? I've faced the darkness again and again, actually. Like, it wasn't something I thought that I was signing up for at the beginning, but I found myself in places, as I've described here and there, but like in this abyss, this pit. I have personally struggled with plenty, more than my fair share of depression, despair, addictions, and PTSD. And so I've discovered, the similarities, that other men especially face across all different backgrounds. Like, it doesn't matter what country they're from, what religion they are, but I've found that our pain, our suffering, our setbacks, our pits, they're unpleasant. Nobody wants to go through those, but they kind of, they bring us together in a way because it's a shared experience. Everybody goes through those hardships. So, when I was in the depths of that darkness myself, I found hope and courage and faith in the face of horror and oppression during COVID and just great fear. So it's like one way I describe it is I feel like I looked Satan in the eyes, and I did in 26. Was it? I'll never remember if it was late 27 or late 2016 or early 17, but it was somewhere right around there, the holidays. But I did encounter, like, if there was a devil among us, I know his name. I found him. I didn't go looking for him, but I found him. And in a sense, it's kind of metaphorical, but I did. I looked the devil in his eyes, and what I saw horrified and terrified me, and it sent me into a spiral of fear, paranoia, depression, hopelessness for a couple of years. But in that pit, what I did eventually find was hope. And so knowing, encountering Satan, knowing that he is real, sort of, you could say, sent me running back to God, seeking God. I thought, if evil is real in the hearts of men, well, then good must be real too. And it's more than just fairy tales, more than just stories that we tell ourselves. There's the psychological storytelling significance of those things. But yeah, I found in my ordeal, if you will, at the bottom of my cycle, going through my hero's journey in that unknown underworld, unconscious, battling the demons, that road of trials, going through the fire, the dragon. What I came away with, they say the dragon is always guarding some gold, hoarding some gold. So the gift, the spiritual, the boon that I've discovered down there was I developed this inseparable, indomitable connection to the transcendent. And over these years, this horrible, slow, painful process, but I unlocked this miraculous power from the unseen realm. And so I've developed an unshakable faith in my Father, in the good, in the potential for, there is always a good road you can follow if you are conscious and connected and seeking it. There is also the dark path that leads to hell, because I've been there, I've seen it. But yeah, I kind of reconnected with that. I rescued my father from the belly of the whale, in Peterson terms. I recovered my faith. I reinvigorated my spiritual life. And so I have faith again in God, in humanity, and in a better future. So today, my driving desire is to help others to find that freedom and to create it in their lives. Not the escapism, not seeking hedonic pleasure, not just sitting on beaches drinking Mai Tais, but building the spiritual kingdom in their own hearts, laying down bricks of the kingdom walls, day by day, the castle walls, building them inside you, a fortress within, to escape spiritual bondage, and to, as I think I alluded to before, to ultimately stop men cutting themselves off from their divinity, drifting without purpose into the pit, operating on autopilot, sedating and sitting back, allowing evil to prevail in the world. So my mission and vision, I suppose, is to help build kingdoms for good, and to revitalize the world by starting within ourselves, leading by example, rebuilding our the treasures within, so that we can share with everyone around us. So that's a big vision. But that has been my experience. So that's profound, at least for me. I hope it resonates with you. And that's how deep I went with this Epiphany Bridge script. So again, to take it back to the outline, the framework for you guys, you just got my full deep dive example. And And so this will be, for me, this will be a storytelling device, a blueprint that I've now fleshed out, and I've given you the long version. Thank you so much for your time, for staying here with me, and giving your attention and watching this. This is something I will practice and experiment with and refine, and at least as far as the Expert Secrets book and the trainer activation protocol that we're working through, the idea is, okay, so you flesh out your whole life journey, like all of this stuff. Where did you go? What resistance did you encounter? Who were the villains per se on your journey, whether human or metaphorical, or yourself? What discoveries and revelations and epiphanies did you encounter, and how have you turned that around? How have you built that into something reproducible for others? And ultimately, are you leading others through a similar process? What has been your result, and what results are you helping other people now get? So you take people through this whole journey, the backstory, your origins, your journey, and any conflict that you encountered. What was your call to adventure? What was the villain, the dragon that you had to somehow overcome? What was the what if question you were asking yourself, maybe desperately at the beginning, like I was? It was what if I never figure out a sustainable way to earn an income, to support a family? So and then next stage of the framework here is, what is the new opportunity? Who did you learn it from? What was the epiphany? What did that open up? What's the new vehicle? How you can help someone else solve a problem they face in their life. Finally, you do share, again, going into, I think he says strategy, but not tactics. Like, what's the overall framework? Like, I've led you on at a few different levels here. My framework is the hero's journey framework, and we'll be applying it in many different ways at different levels for you in your business, in your marketing, in your storytelling. But I've led by example here. So what's the strategy? The overall blueprint or framework or roadmap that you're offering someone. What have been your results with it? What have been others' results, if you've been able to help, if you have a few case studies? And lastly, what are the hero's two journeys? What's the external achievement after going through your grand journey of learning and earning it through whatever hardship you had to go through? And how did that transform you internally? What was the inner journey, the inner growth experience? And so this is the Epiphany Bridge framework, okay? I think, let me see if I've got, no, it's not. Give me just a second here. Find this. So this is the full workbook, supplemental PDF that goes along with Expert Secrets. So this is the one I wanted to. Come on. The whole script here in one of Russell's famous doodles. You tell your backstory. Yeah, maybe how did you hit a brick wall when you were seeking out a certain desire? And then what's the journey you went on to recover or find a way around? What challenges you ran into? What's the new opportunity you discovered that you now want to share with the world, with your audience, with your people? And lastly, your framework. You give a kind of high level explication of what is the strategy or the tools that you're going to introduce, you're going to lead your people on, and then what do they get? You show through your example, like I've just done here, sharing my transformation, my grand hero's journey, and how it changed me. But you use your example and the example of others maybe that you've guided. But what's the achievement? It's about, in terms of what can your prospect hope to gain, right? If they follow you on this path, they take your invitation into the journey together with you as their guide. What external achievement might they reach? So like for us, it's like we're going to build empires, baby. We're building businesses. I will guide you through all these stages of expert secrets, how to position yourself as the expert to your people and become the hero in your marketplace, how to make your brand, known as the hero in your space. I'm not the hero, you are. But to get there, so the inner transformation, so what does that mean? What does it take to become a hero? Yes, you will achieve great things. You will be on stage accepting awards. There'll be recognition. There'll be dollar figures, right? But ultimately, it's about the inner treasures that you develop and cultivate inside yourself that eventually come through. They manifest in the real world when you build it inside. That's what it means. Treasures in heaven. Heaven is in you. The kingdom of God is in you. I seem to remember some famous guy saying that. I can't anyway. But you got to build it on the inside first, and then it starts to seep through. So this is your framework for how are you going to adapt this for yourselves in your storytelling? How can you take your audience on a journey with you and tell your life story or your career story or whatever it took for you to learn it or earn it? How did you get to where you are today, now wanting to turn around and teach others, guide others, coach others, train and facilitate their transformation? All right. So if there's any questions, I would love to see your guys throw it in the chat or leave it in the comments. I'm trying to think, do I have anything else? I did want to share I finally have updated the website. We've gone on over 2 hours, so I'm going to wrap it up here. But if you guys get a chance, please go to herofoundry.org, O-R-G, where I'm trying to now capture and convey a lot of this hero's journey in a visual format. But one of the things that I was kind of personally, I'm in love with my own creation here. But when I tallied it up, it's like, what did it take for me to learn it or earn it? Well, I'm going to lead you guys through it. Well, I've invested over $475,000 of my own money that's over 16 years, I think. But it may have hit the $500,000 mark. All this travel, all these attending events, and hiring coaches of my own, and going to traveling across the world to meet with pretty astounding mentors at times. Now there's 21 that I know of that I've listed out recently, businesses and small companies that we have incubated. Either my experiments, I've done a handful, maybe 5 or 6, or been involved with, but then a whole bunch of our past students. And I know there's more than this if you count up. I need to get back in and reactivate and reconnect with a lot of the old students that I worked with from the fact that there's probably at least dozens more. I know that a lot of our students are still in business for themselves. Many of them, like I said, have far surpassed me. If you wanted to count stuff like Christian Martin, he was in my workshop in 2011 in San Francisco. And then the guy just put the pedal to the metal and far surpassed me, real quick. But there's at least 21 companies that we have incubated and launched here amongst our inner circle. And then over the years, since 2010, my count is at least 3,500 customers have come through the doors. That doesn't mean it was like a super deep dive engagement, but we have touched over 3,500 customers. So they're vanity metrics, but I'm actually, if there's anything I'm proud of other than my children and my wife in business, I don't know why it took me so long to actually narrow these down. But now that I have, I'm like, yeah, fuck it. Put those up on the website. I'm proud of that shit, dude. How many of you fuckers have put almost $500,000 in? Anyone? I mean, I know Garrett has, but. So anyways, check out herofoundry.org. And next time that we meet, I will be here. I'm going to be back on a weekly schedule. For now, I'm going to keep sharing. I'm going to keep focusing on the hero's journey. I'm probably going to come at it from different angles. I'll share more about my story, we can delve into whatever interests you. One thing I want to share the story of how we built Digital Nomad Academy in 2010 and how on day one we made $17,000. And that did become if anything is passive income, that was a fairly passive income business for like 7 years. Just put in a tremendous amount of work up front, a lot of collaboration. And then it hit some real snags and I had to rebuild and restructure in different ways once or twice, but it had a certain amount of longevity. And there's a lot that can be taken from that experience that I plan to now, I'm going to implement all over again. I knew nothing back then, and considering who I am today and what the new skill sets and mindsets I've developed, the relationships, I guess, and the Rolodex I have now, I'm going to go back and follow similar blueprints all over again. Only this time I really know what I'm doing versus at the beginning when I was completely oblivious. So in many ways, I'm looking back. Okay, what did I need back then that I didn't have, that I didn't even know I needed? And that's what I'm going to do my best to give others that are early in their entrepreneurial journey today. So that's one way I can serve others. There's a lot of stories I look forward to unpacking with you guys. I hope you've enjoyed this one. Please leave your feedback and any questions I would be happy to address the next time. But I'll be here again, same bat time, same bat channel next Monday evening for most of you guys in the Western Hemisphere. It's 6 p.m. Pacific time, 9 p.m. Eastern, I believe. Monday evenings. And if any of you guys who are Hero Foundry members or Warrior Brothers, if you're part of the trainer group, hit me up before this time slot next week. And if you want to come join me on the call and we can break down your hero's journey, your epiphany bridge, we could go through the scripts and the frameworks, and I would love to help you flesh out your storytelling if that's helpful. So just, you know where to find me, reach out, and I look forward to connecting with you guys. But on that note, I will see you guys next week, and have a wonderful week. Enjoy your journey, and we'll see you here again soon at Hero Foundry. Thanks for watching.